Hello, Facebook. Here we are.
Hello, Facebook.
Juggle. And today we're going to talk about objections, right? Things that are maybe holding you back from signing up for the juggle.
And making changes. So I don't think it's just signing up for the juggle. It's
right.
Wanting to make the changes, even though you might know that they're necessary.
That's only the first change, is investing in yourself. But absolutely, and committing to doing the work, that is absolutely game changing. How do you make a change happen? You commit to it. That's all. And then after that, it's magic.
That's literally it. I think going back a step from there, how do you make a change happen? First of all, you have to commit to yourself. To sign up to this particular boot camp, for me, given how I was, I say 5 years ago, possibly more than that, I couldn't have, because I didn't think I was important or that I mattered enough for me to invest some money in myself and some time and take time out of the other normal ways that I was coping with my shit, with my overwhelm. So for me, that was drinking and binging on Netflix and food. So, and arguing with my then partner. I didn't have a healthy coping mechanism. So signing up for a boot camp with people who really had their shit together and were saying that they knew how to help me and saying that they understood what I was going through and how to get me out of it. No, thank you. That wasn't a thing. So I think that might be an important.
Because you didn't see yourself in, I think it was what Jen talked about last time, was kind of people like us do things like this. Or, I'm guessing when you were in that space, it was like, those aren't people like me. I'm not them.
No, they're special magic people who've got their stuff together and know how to live life in ways that I don't know and can't ever know, because I'm not important. I don't matter. I'm not worth it. That kind of space I used to inhabit very well and fulsomely.
Yeah. I think people feel intimidated sometimes. Do they want to? And the other, not just intimidated by us, because we're not actually scary people. We're super nice, easy people. But I think it's really intimidating to sometimes get real and get honest in front of other people about what's actually going on with you, because you come to something like this, you commit to the change, as Leah said. One of the things that you have to do, first thing you have to do, is own where you're at, right? If you can't take an honest stock of where you're at and move forward, and that feels really scary. So, creating a safe space for that, that's essentially what we're doing this weekend. Is we're creating a space where everybody can bring all of their things, and we will bring all of our things and unpack them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, laugh where we need to, cry where we need to, but then sort through the pile. What are we keeping? What's good? What's wonderful? What are we not keeping? What is not serving us anymore? But that intimidation factor of like, oh gosh, do I really want to unpack this Santa sack in front of all these people?
And even before that is not even in front of all of those people, but in front of myself. So I don't want to shine a light into all of these dark, dusty corners that I know are there. I don't want to look at them, because goodness knows what might actually be there. And it's that unknown, kind of the not knowing, which can be the scariest thing. And often what you find is that you shine a light and actually that, things aren't quite so bad and they're not so dire. And actually there's a simple way out that may still require some work, but it's not half as bad as you are sitting there absolutely terrified that it may be.
And the thing that stops us shining a light is the thing that grows in the darkness, and that's shame. So the thing that may stop you signing up for this boot camp, which is such a life-changing opportunity for you, we will show you another way where you will stop doing all the unhealthy stuff that you're doing at the moment to manage the overwhelm, the juggle, the stress. Shame will hold you back from doing that. Shame is the guardian of your healing. Shame is the guardian of the light. It is stopping the light from shining into you, and it's stopping you from shining your light as well. I really want to see your light shine.
And you know what has occurred to me, Lucy, as you said that? The internet and social media is absolutely horrendous for this. It's so shame-inducing because we all post when we feel good. We all post
we show the show reels. We show the highlights.
Totally. And it's, we're comparing internally, we're comparing our very apparent weaknesses to ourselves. Like, we know what our stuff is, right? But we're comparing it to all these shiny Instagram people that we see.
The bits that they're okay being seen.
And it just makes the shame worse, you know, and it makes it even harder to show up and be honest and you know, to say, gosh, I'm really struggling with this thing because clearly no one else is. Just look at my Instagram feed. No one is. I'm alone in this dark place. And that's A, not true, and B, so damaging and holding people back. Like I don't want to live in constant comparison with things that I know are an illusion.
Jenn, have you frozen or just gone very still and beautiful? Very still, beautiful. See how Jenn holds place. No, we don't want anybody to live in constant comparison to fake stuff on Instagram and Facebook. I watch people in the same industry that I work in, the online coaching industry, saying that they're earning 6 figures, multi-6 figures, 7 figures, and they're definitely not. They're not. So
all that requires is someone to have a good launch and sell something and have a good month, and then extrapolate that and times it by 12 and go, I've hit 6 figures this year. You know, and that isn't that's what happens.
Yeah.
And for starting out, you know, in the framework of that, for someone starting out in business or in online coaching business, to look around and compare ourselves to that, to compare our beginnings with other people's middles is very, very intimidating and shame-inducing, and all the old stuff, all the old repeating ways that we think, feel and behave that tell us that we're not worth it, that tell us that we're no good at things, that tell us that we shouldn't be here in this space, just kick in. They kick in, and then we're silenced, we're shamed, we are belittled, and we are disempowered. So we are here to help you to step into all of the great, good and amazing things that will tell you that you're important, that you're worthy, and that you deserve investing in, of both your time and money this weekend coming.
I think related to that is something I think I posted today, which is about inaction, because the other thing is that kind of people just sitting thinking things aren't that bad, they'll get better, and they take no action. And there's a quote which is, if you what is it, it's if you want more of the same, do more of the same. It's something along those lines. But it's also the fact that sometimes the status quo feels easier because it's known. You know what you're dealing with, you know how things are, and then on the other side of that is complete unknown. And what does that mean? What does that require? What am I going to have to do differently? How is that going to stir the waters? That feels really scary. I'd rather sit here in inaction and just keep the status quo and do the same thing. And on top of that, we've also got the physiological stuff, which is, you know, we've had COVID and we've had a massively stressful time that is unknown, that, you know, obviously we're all facing this kind of unprecedented event, and it's ongoing. And physiologically, what happens when some of our, you know, our security and our safety is threatened is that we go into fight or flight. We go into kind of paralysis, which is, I can't make a decision. I can't make any big decisions, you know, maybe even small decisions, but I certainly can't make any life-changing big decisions because you are so overwhelmed physiologically that you cannot possibly do that. So when we're sitting here and going, come and, you know, make this life-changing decision, come and do this, we can help you get beyond all of this overwhelm and all of this stuff. What's happening, I think, for some people is they're just sitting in this massive overwhelm and physiologically unable to make a decision that maybe consciously they know will serve them well, but there's almost a physiological reason why they can't do that.
Yeah.
So how can we talk to that? I mean, everything in me is screaming, you know, we're about to start a new year. We're about to start a whole new opportunity, and make this stepping out of this way you are living, this keeping everything separate, keeping all the plates spinning, keeping all the balls in the air, fearing that your life's about to come falling down because you're not going to manage it all. Step out of that in time for 2021.
I think you can probably, as in terms of role models, which is one of the things that we talk about, and the kind of role model you want to be. But in terms of our experience of COVID in this year, you know, obviously we've all found it difficult, but in many respects, we found it less difficult than many people around us because we had set ourselves up to cope with stuff like this. And although this is completely unexpected and we couldn't have foreseen this, we have got some foundations and building blocks in place that have made it much more doable and much more, you know, it's about being agile and flexible and adaptable. And, you know, my life has been set up in a way that, you know, my kids already learned at home. I already worked from home. my kids have been used to being kind of fairly self-sufficient, and they've used to have been having kind of, you know, my boundaries, and the lifestyle hasn't massively changed. And yes, we've had certain restrictions, and yes, I've had to cope with all of those, but you know, I don't feel that I've had a really, really difficult time this year, because my life was already set up. You know, I've got married this year, I've moved house this year, I've done all sorts of really life-changing and stressful things in the midst of this pandemic, and juggled them all, and, you know, and coped with them all, but only because I had some of these foundations set up and in place. And that's, you know, if you want to, I know, Jen, you talked about that after the 2008 crash, you know, you had a very conscious strategy of, we are never going to be in this position again. We will build things now so that in the future, at whatever point, we will be prepared.
Yep. And oh my gosh, are we thankful for that now? But you know, the thing that I was thinking about when you were talking to Leah was that the thing I think that's been hardest for people is that all of the structures upon which we've relied have crumbled around us, right? And we unconsciously and consciously sometimes live within the habits that we form in those structures. And when the structures are gone, then what do you do? And the thing that's made juggling seem so much harder is that the structures were not intentional or chosen for most people. They were just the ones we were born into. And they were just the ones that we participate in the social compact. And the lesson from this year is those things are not reliable, and they will disappear tomorrow or yesterday, as the case may be. And so if that's the case, and then you're in that physiological place, like I can't move right now because everything is a shambles around me. Well, the way you get it unshambled is by letting go of that structure that has crumbled, and in its place putting something intentional that serves you. You know,
so building internal structures instead of relying on or missing or feeling worried or anxious that the external structures have failed. That's certainly what I did. You know, I started this journey at 7.5 years ago. Leah, is Jen frozen and we're not?
She is for me. I think she's back now.
Okay.
Oh, I'm back now. I'm sorry. I was just saying
that you froze.
It comes back to what you said, Lucy, of like investing in yourself, you know,
yes.
saying that I am worth it. And when you do that, then you can build a framework around yourself that is not bomb proof, it's not pandemic proof, but it is resilient, and it is strong, and it is intentional, and it will allow you can build into it ways to cope with all of this stuff that you didn't have before. And the other thing I was thinking about when Leah was talking earlier was, you know, the law in science and in physics of an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest tends to stay at rest. And so the hardest part is getting the object from at rest, where we are now, to in motion. But once you are in motion, it's easier and easier and easier to take the next step, to keep going, to commit to the path, to make the changes. But that first push is where a lot of people are stuck right now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was just saying, Jen, when you were frozen, I was saying about 7.5 years ago, I committed to starting to learn about myself and others in a more in-depth way than I ever had before. I already had, but I started to train as a transactional analyst, psychotherapy. And in that, I had to dig into myself. I had to learn myself. I had to unlearn old archaic patterns of thinking, feeling and doing stuff in certain ways that is responsive and reactive to the external stuff, the ways we've already done things and the way the world is. And I have restructured myself, repatterned myself from the inside. And as a result of that, of course, my external world has transformed and is beautiful and intentionally chosen and good and wholesome and clean and beautiful. And yeah, so I think that the stuff about self-knowledge and self-awareness and linked with resilience and this deep wired, hardcore, baked in invincibility, this knowledge that no one can hurt me, everybody can leave me, everybody can come and overwhelm me, but that won't change my state because this is how I am. And my way of being fed by me.
And if it does, you know that you can get back there again. So it isn't that it's here, it's that it can be like this, but you can always return to that baseline. And the other part of that as well, and I think these are some of the things, and you're obviously you've trained in transactional analysis and the psychotherapy, and you will have a ton of techniques and tools, and we each have our own tools and techniques, so that, you know, when you talk about how you have changed your patterns and how you've changed your behavior and how you've changed your ways of thinking. I was talking today, in fact, to each of the kids separately and as a kind of group about
We're big
doing
fans
the
of
work
you kids, internet.
and what that means, and literally how I've done it over the last, say, 3 or 4 years, of how I've changed some of my mindset patterns and some of the things that I believed and some of the narratives and some of the ways that I've been thinking, and how you can change them, because it isn't, you know, it is about doing the work, but there's some really simple stuff that people can do, and it is about starting with that awareness and then committing to making those changes and understanding and hearing from other people how they've done it and all sorts of tools and techniques. And those are some of the practical things. So when it sounds sometimes to me, when people talk about, well, you know, I've changed my ways of being and I've changed kind of how I've thought about things or how I think about things, I've always kind of thought, but how do you do that? You know, like literally, how do you do it? Is it like hours of psychotherapy every week? Is it this? Is it that? It doesn't have to be. And there are plenty of different ways that, you know, we've each done it and we can do it, that we will be sharing, which are the literal kind of, you know, practical on down stuff.
And I have practical tools that are all about building up faith and trust in yourself, betting on yourself, being your own cheerleader, your own best buddy, your own, like, yeah, you can do this person. That stuff is really important, and it's the grounding, it's the foundation, bedrock of the stuff that is about re-landscaping your life, which sounds very fancy and, you know, oh yeah, really.
There's one that, in terms of practicalities, there's one of the things, you know, I'll share it now, that has massively helped me over the last 4 years in terms of emotional management and being able to, I tend to think my way through things, but being able to do that is I send myself emails. So if I'm feeling something and I'm not sure what I'm feeling and I'm not sure what's happened, I will just, it's like journaling really, or it's like a diary or whatever, but I'm digital, not analog. So I will, you know, whip out my phone or be on my laptop and I will just write. It's like a stream of consciousness, and I will send myself an email, and it may be kind of addressed to somebody else that if I'm aware of who I'm angry with or who's upset me, then it may be to them, or it may just be to me, or whatever it is. But over the course of sometimes, you know, 20 emails a day or 20 emails in an hour, it helps me work my way through in a way that sitting there stewing and thinking doesn't, and never has done. And that has been so fundamental for me over the past few, you know, 3 or 4 years of just figuring myself out and self-awareness. And it's, you know, and it may not be emails, it may just be letters, or it may be a, you know, a kind of paper journal or whatever. But there's the holistic psychologist does she has a free, is it called self-journaling? But she has a free tool and a free process. She's amazing, Nicole Pereira, or whatever her name is. But she has got a really useful practice of self-journaling, which you can download free from her website, I think. And it's not quite the same as I do at all, but it's a similar thing. And she has got millions of people doing it, and they're finding that it's really helping with their self-awareness and their own healing, kind of doing the work, which is, you know, I follow her. I think she's amazing.
Leah, you just said something that I think is really important. You said, well, I don't do it exactly like she did, but I do it my way. People don't have to do this any certain way. You know, you get the tools, you get the encouragement, you get the stories of other people who have done it. That's great. But then you can take it and make it your own. You know, it's not about everyone doing Leah's process or everyone doing Lucy's process or mine or anyone else's, but it's about finding the resources that you need from a diverse group of people who have all managed it in one way or the other, and then making those things your own. Yeah. But I have a devil's advocate question. So somebody is like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I want to do all of that stuff. I simply don't have time. 5 hours over Saturday and Sunday is not manageable in December when I'm up to my ears in kids and all the things and work, and I just don't have time.
Would you like me?
You can jump in. Well, the easy answer is that we're recording it. You don't have to show up live, and you can dive back in at your leisure.
That's an easy, practical.
A very easy answer.
My slightly more complex answer is, if you don't make time now for yourself, whenever will you? Because you are important. And unless you start believing that and betting on yourself and investing in your development and your growth and your relationship with the most important person in your whole entire world, which is you, as Jen and Leah were saying earlier, which I didn't quite understand from a physics perspective, but you know, an object that is not in motion will move more if someone gives it a shove. So give yourself that shove.
And nothing's going to change unless you change it. That's the point. You know,
and now that it's bothering you in the back of your soul, it's not going to stop bothering you until you take action.
Yeah, and there's something about trusting yourself. If there's something in you, and I was going to say this because Leah's thinking through stuff and sending emails, which is amazing. If thinking is your main mode of transport into yourself, into your relationship with yourself, mine is feeling. So what I have to do is sit and, you know, work out what my baseline is, work out who I am when I'm not feeling anything, and then work out what I'm feeling on top of that so that I can gauge when I'm feeling anything. I had to learn this stuff by rote. I was a thinker, cut off from my feelings entirely. I was kind of nothing was happening from here. But yeah, if you're not a thinker through things, if you're a feeler through things, does this feel right for you? And if it does, as Jen said, it's not, that feeling's not going to go away. You're going to keep feeling that. And if you're a doer and you cannot move forward into a relationship with yourself without taking action, then now is the time. What better time is there? It's nearly Christmas time. It's nearly another year. This year's been hard. Start the new year believing in yourself, investing in yourself, betting in yourself.
So let's ask the often difficult question, money. But what if I can't afford it?
We have a payment plan.
Yeah.
We have a payment plan. You can pay. What's the payment plan? I have no idea.
It's in three. You can make it in 3 payments. And if that's still too much, we can create custom payment plans if we really need to. If this is something that you really desperately know you need and want, but money is you know, we want to lower the barrier to entry and make it doable for you. So, you know, we can talk about things like that. But it's also, you know, when we were talking about the value and pricing, and that's a whole other kind of story, I guess, when it comes to running your own business and what do you price things at, and, you know, and this, to me, it's a big chunk of money for some people, and particularly at this time of year. But when we're talking about the value of what you will get from it and the change that it will create and the impact of that, not just now, but in weeks, months, years, it's a small price to invest, you know, compared with
on investment.
You know what I just thought of? How many people, if they could pay $500 now to have made this year less stressful, horrible, difficult, like if you can pay $500 now to increase your experience by 30 or 40%, even through all the hard pandemic stuff, like people would be sending their credit cards, right? Because
so if they had a crystal ball at the beginning of this year and someone said to you, like, look, this is going to happen, all of this stuff is going to happen this year, if you pay $500 now, you will have a much easier, smoother experience of it than if you know.
I would say, like, I'd be the first one in, even though my experience, I think, has been less stressful than a lot of people's. And you know, to be honest, 2021 does not look like it's going to be magically better immediately. You know, the pandemic's not going away. All of these things, the economic impacts are going to continue. 2021 is going to be hard. It's going to be a struggle. There are going to be more things to juggle.
Yeah.
This kind of investment is how you set yourself up to weather that well and to thrive in it instead of survive.
Yeah.
I love that word. I love the word thrive so much. And when we hold it next to survive, I've spoken to so many people this year who've really struggled to survive, and haven't been nowhere near thriving at all. And like Leah, you know, I've moved house. I've had things, my house that I sold to buy this house, that fell through twice. You know, that was super stressful because I was in love with this house already. So I was like, I'm going to lose my house. So we can go through stuff that's created within ourselves by the shit that happens outside of ourselves, and we're going to teach you how to modulate your responses, how to respond rather than react, how to use your body as a barometer and your brain as a compass to get yourself through life. So with thriving rather than surviving.
And then also loads of really practical tools of, here, try this. You know, and if that doesn't work, try this. And if that doesn't work, try this. To set up the structures that just make a day move more smoothly, make things with your kids easier, make things with your spouse better. all of those things.
But that's the benefit of the three of us, because if you've been watching any of the lives, and you will possibly have gathered, and if you know us separately or individually anyway, you will probably see quite how different we all are.
We are apparently more different from each other than we are similar, which is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
I see things in common with both of you, but I also know that, like, when sometimes in our WhatsApp group, I'm like, wow, that's not something I would ever think of or say. It's just so amazing. Yeah, we are really different, and we've got really different skills, really different life experiences, different approaches to thriving, different methods. I would no sooner email myself than I'd stick a pencil up my nose and headbutt a table. Emailing myself, what?
That's going to work for some people, and the thing that you'll share will be, you know, I would be like, what, you know, and will work for others too.
Brilliant. And yet what we have together is so magical and so right. And, you know, we want that to rub off on you. We want you to benefit from what the three of us, who are so different from each other and yet so in harmony with each other's message. We are all singing from this song sheet together. We are all working together to help you to thrive, help you to hit this next year. God knows what it's going to bring to us all, but to hit it and thrive, to hit it well, to go well into 2021. That's what we're here for.
Well said, Lucy.
Thank you. So we'll be live again on Friday before the boot camp starts on Saturday and Sunday evening. So the boot camp is at 12 midday until 2 to 2:30 if you're in the Eastern time zone. If you're in Jenland.
That's right.
If you're in Lucy and Leah land, then it's 5 o'clock till 7:30ish. So we'll finish in plenty of time for wine o'clock, whatever land you live in. And we really hope you choose to invest in yourself, and come and join us on Friday too, when we'll be going into a bit more detail about what's included in the Beyond the Juggle bootcamp. Okay, bye-bye.
See ya.